Do you know what's new for nurses? What about dementia and caregiving? Are you looking to grow as a leader? And what are the current healthcare leaders doing for you? Welcome to the Angie Graham podcast. Welcome to the podcast. I am Angie Graham. Finding stability in healthcare. It is a lifelong challenge for the industry. From hiring to occupancy to marketing, is stability even possible? With me today are Angela and Maggie. Angela and Maggie are from Davis Consulting. Angela is the COO and Maggie is the co-COO. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. Angela, 12 years of long-term care, licensed nursing home administrator, bachelor's and master's in healthcare administration, lobbyist for the MS Society, and mother of 2 boys.
Yep.
And then Maggie, bachelor's in healthcare administration, previous owner and operator of a 52-bed assisted living home, was a paramedic at the UW hospital, and a proud mother of 3. You ladies are very accomplished. Welcome to the show. And you're still in healthcare. You're sticking it out like the rest of us are. We're still here, right? Mm-hmm. Both of you have a lot of experience. What is Davis Consulting? What do you guys do? If you could sum that up.
Sure. We really focus on the buildings in need. Other organizations will reach out to us and ask for assistance with directed plans of correction, interim staffing. We do a lot of leadership, interim staffing. Really those buildings that need help that they can't dig themselves out of is where most of our focus lies.
So you guys are like the bar rescue.
Essentially, yes.
Assisted living and
Yes.
Nursing homes.
Yeah.
So, or like Kitchen Nightmares with Chef Ramsay, where they go in and they're the fixers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we call ourselves
we are the fixers.
Yeah.
Definitely. Right now, especially since COVID, the industry, I feel like, has changed significantly. And what are some of the challenges you guys are seeing within the industry, maybe before COVID and now post-COVID?
I would say the issues pre-COVID have really just gotten worse post-COVID. Prior to COVID, we still dealt with staffing and regulatory survey cycles and all the things, and now it just seems like it's even more heightened, and we've gone on further. And on top of it, everybody's kind of worn out from COVID, right?
And then you add in a little inflation and lack of reimbursement, and it has all just really rolled into a bigger mess than it was before.
And I think, too, that we lost a lot of residents throughout COVID. So census is an issue now, too. I know a lot of buildings are still rebuilding their census from COVID.
Okay. Reimbursement. So this is a hot topic for the assisted living world for sure. I live and breathe this. Reimbursement is not where it needs to be for residents that are on family care or Medicaid. Mm-hmm. Because the cost and the overhead cost to run the business has accelerated so rapidly that those reimbursements, the state and federal, have not kept up with a reimbursement level that can really sustain the care that's needed, that you need to provide these residents. And I have been on the forefront of that, being a part of WALA, which is the Wisconsin Assisted Living Association, to advocate for better rates for individuals that are on Medicaid or the family care waiver program. So what are you guys seeing out there in regards to that lack of funding?
I mean, I think it runs through the organization as a whole, right? The level of staff you can hire. Who can you afford to pay? Are you getting quality staff? What type of food are you serving? Can you replace carpeting? Can you keep up with your landscape? All of those things directly are affected by that reimbursement rate. And as we all know, the current acuity in assisted livings is that of a skilled nursing facility 5 years ago. And so as that acuity increases, more and more our organizations are wanting to get that higher tier, that highest rate, but they can't meet that need because they don't have the funds to do it. I think overall that is, you feel it through every aspect, because the reimbursement is the only source of income for these organizations. Most of them don't have private pay or have very minimal private pay residents. So the MCOs, it is a major issue.
It really becomes a management issue because you really have to look at, can I survive and take MCOs? And one thing we had to do as an organization with 31 locations was we had to pivot. Mm-hmm. So as much as you want to help everyone, you can't and keep the business healthy. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about, is where are people going to go that are on the family care program and the Medicaid programs, because you can't afford to provide the care and keep your overhead in place, mm-hmm. pay what employees should be making.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
They're still trying to hire people at $12 an hour, and mm-hmm. That's not a wage you can even get people to come in and fill out an application mm-hmm. for. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to hire them at that wage because that's what those reimbursement models were modeled after. Mm-hmm. And actually, the old reimbursement model was, I think, modeled after $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm. It's so outdated.
Yeah.
So
even the new rate that just yep. came out are not in line with.
Yeah, totally not in line.
And helps.
I think as owners, and it becomes a real management issue. And when you have built your business on state-funded individuals, you cannot make it. And that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. What we had to do within our organization is we actually had to decrease the number of MCO or managed care organization or family care program individuals and increase our private pay. Mm-hmm. And we have spent the last 3 years making those adjustments. Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to care for everyone, but you also have to be able to pay your bills at the end of the day. And the consumers often assume that nursing homes and assisted livings are sitting over here getting rich. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the case. Just mm-hmm. because healthcare is mm-hmm. attached to the name,
right,
it does not mean that they are money flush. Mm-hmm. It all depends on the reimbursement. So to give the audience a little bit of an understanding, what happens is if someone is paying privately, and let's just say they're paying $5,000 a month, if they go on MCO, that can turn into $3,000 a month. So it's a loss for the provider of $2,000 a month. And take that times how many residents that you have mm-hmm. in the building. Mm-hmm. So you can have the exact same person, and now you're getting less. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a problem.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say that doesn't even include anything extra either. That's just basic room and board. If they have special medications, if they have special wound care supplies, it's not always covered. Depending on transportation. So special diets, supplements, that sort of thing. All of that can be a charge that the business has to, pay for. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Hiring has also been another real challenge for us as providers in the industry. Mm-hmm. What are you guys seeing as the major challenges in regards to staffing with organizations that you're working with? We're Talking About It is brought to you by Our House Senior Living. Visit us at ourhouseseniorliving.com.
I'm seeing a lot on different levels. As far as direct care staff, I think the same problems we've always had, finding the people that want to come to work on weekends and nights and show up for their shifts when they're supposed to. It's hard to get individuals to understand that we need you here. This isn't, you don't just call in and then nobody's there. We need these bodies in the building. Outside of direct care staff, leadership has been especially challenging in some of the organizations I'm working with, finding the quality leaders that aren't burnt out. A lot of these people that have the experience are so burnt out, they don't have the energy anymore to not only onboard new direct care staff, train them, but also continue on with that follow-up and nurturing environment and making sure that they are comfortable and happy. It's on board, get them on the floor, and move on with my day and address these other concerns that are piling up. I see a lot of approach of I watered my plant once and now I don't know why it's dying. So I think overall finding quality staff, but that leadership role right now in a lot of organizations is struggling to find.
And I mean, I look at it from, their perspective. Both Maggie and I have been in that leadership role in the facility, and our cook walked out and then the dietary manager followed the cook. And so we're, cooking and we're like, what, so then they go back and they try to, reinvent the wheel. They hire a dietary manager, get them all trained, and then, it's right back again. So, I mean, I see, we feel it. We know why they're burnt out. But yeah, it's been a struggle. I feel like staff are kind of setting their rates now in the healthcare industry, at least in long-term care industry. It feels like they're just kind of the wages they're wanting are just unachievable. So
they deserve it. It's just
yeah.
As we're talking about,
right.
These reimbursement rates you can't afford it. You can't afford it.
Yeah.
With the new generation that's coming into the workforce, what are they expecting from leadership? What are you guys seeing?
I think it kind of depends on the individual, but I think that because there are so many jobs out there, I think people are more willing to just jump ship if they aren't happy. Yes. And so I think that isn't helping our situation, right? I know both Maggie and I try to be very involved leaders. We try to really, communicate and do anything we can to keep them on our team. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things I see is that they're very quick to run out at, because they can find something that same day, making the same amount.
Pick up a PM shift.
Yep.
If they walk out our door at noon, on a different floor at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's that does make it very hard to retain and hire and stay within your range, because they can I can go somewhere else and make 25 more cents an hour, and that's worth it, to them in that scenario where they're being forced to work a weekend or a knock shift if that's what they're signed up for and they don't want to. So I think that is what I see a lot of, is that struggle of keeping your staff because they know they can go next door and have a job in a minute.
And I think the other piece of that is that, long-term care isn't easy. SNFs now have hospital acuity residents and assisted livings have SNF residents. And for them, I mean, we've all worked on the floor in the SNF. I mean, even years ago, it wasn't easy. And so they're probably like, we can go work at a clinic.
Skilled nursing facility.
Oh, skilled nursing facility.
SNF.
Okay, yes. SNF's skilled nursing facility. But yeah, I think it's difficult. Like it feels like it's kind of every angle that we're trying to
help these buildings.
Yeah. And we have to use agencies right now, but that also kind of digs us in a deeper financial hole.
Okay. If you could change 3 things that you see in the industry today, what would they be?
I think 2 of the 3 we've kind of touched on, reimbursement, staffing, and then also the survey cycle. We work with organizations across the country, and so I'm getting more familiar with state to state. But there's 50 different states, and so it is. I follow federal CMS guidelines, but they do vary state to state, and sometimes I feel that states are asking for additional information or, kind of being a little bit more punitive with the building rather than coming in to support. And we want to work very closely with state and federal agencies. I wish there was, more states that take the approach of, okay, the facility is going to self-report. They're going to do their investigation. They're going to submit everything they have. And if it looks good, we do not need to go in and investigate this in person.
Collaborative approach versus a punitive approach.
Yeah.
And that's something that operators that we're working with that are stuck in that vicious cycle of surveys and complaints. That's a frequent conversation we have is I think the industry is going to have to pivot that way. It can't be so punitive. We're even seeing the managed care organizations being more punitive than DHS. As the industry grows and we have these boomers up and coming, and I think experts at this point are saying we're going to need 800,000 additional assisted living units in the next 5 years. 3,000 nursing homes are those numbers, and that's scary. And I don't think the industry can continue with the way they're being managed right now with the punitive buildings are going to shut down and we're going to lose beds when we need more.
And the workforce is leaving our industry and going, back to the hospital or going to a clinic if it's a nurse that wants to keep their license, but they're leaving our industry. And just a kind of a story. I got into this because I placed my mom in a nursing home. She lived there for 3 years, and I visited her every day. And over the course of those 3 years, she had money stolen from her. She had a fall with a fracture that eventually led to her death. She had a resident that abused her. I mean, all these crazy scenarios, right? And nothing had ever happened from them. This was prior to me getting my license, and so I'm thinking, there's got to be better oversight, better regulation, right? And so then I get into, my licensing, and I'm like, oh, it is the most heavily regulated industry. People are just literally hiding because of, their fear of repercussions. Yeah. So, these federal focus buildings then are subject to more surveys. And are we getting them off the federal focus building? Are they graduating? And how are they actually graduating?
How are we helping them to graduate?
Yeah. Is it because we're giving them the resources and the quality of care? Is it because they are buying, and they're selling or another company's buying? So I think that's just where I'm kind of like, we need to figure out a better way to work together. And it varies, like I said, it varies from state to state. I see some pros, some cons with every state that I'm starting to work with.
And even county to county, especially in Wisconsin.
The regions,
Some are much more involved in punitive, others are not. And same with the MCOs, that it just really depends where you do your research before you build a building.
Yeah, we're definitely familiar with differences in regional offices.
Yes.
In some areas than others. So,
have you ever had someone from one region cover the other region for one of your surveys?
No.
So that happened to us kind of recently. We were like, oh, they're from a different region. Oh no, it's the whatever region. We're like, wait, this might be worse. We're not sure. So I mean, it's just, I could talk on and on and on, but it's just, deficiency-free surveys are
a thing of the past.
Impossible. There's no way. I mean, I could walk into any nursing home today and find a med card unlocked or anything.
Paper towels not enclosed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing that in multiple buildings when they have paper towels sitting on the like an actual roll they're using for cleaning, and it's sitting on the counter for hand drying. I've seen it tagged several times in the last couple months.
Yeah. So in the nursing homes, deficiency-free is unheard of. What about assisted livings?
I think it's achievable, but it's less common than it was 5 years ago.
Okay.
And again, our company is in the troubled buildings, so we don't often see clear surveys. I'm sure they are out there, but we're brought into those buildings that have had survey issues. Significant survey issues in the past.
So being a provider in the state, we're in a lot of different rural communities. I mean, that's kind of our niche, is we're out serving the farmers and the school teachers and the, police chief and all of that. We're in those rural areas. And we were, many of our buildings, we were the first assisted living there. So we've been around a long time. And what the experience we have had is when new buildings go up or new providers come in, the struggle that we see happen when a new building opens up or a new owner takes over an existing building. When we see another provider struggle, that's not good news for us, because we want to see them get corrected as quickly as possible, because it affects our industry as a whole. And but we often hear about it because we'll start getting families coming to our buildings hoping that we have availability because they want to move a loved one, because all of this is happening over at the other place. Fortunately, in our case, because we're such an experienced provider, we've been at it for such a long time, we do have quite a few, actually, surveys that are deficiency-free. But we never think it's good news, because a lot of times we're full. So they have to go on our waiting list if they want to come into our buildings. So sometimes those shiny new buildings, buyer beware, because it also comes with brand new management, brand new staff. And there is this time period that takes place of ramping a building up.
Stabilization.
And we've seen, it's not very often, and I hate to say this, but it's not very often we see that go off without a hitch, where there's always that ramp up period, and there's always a new owner or a new administrator trying to overcome the challenges that go along with the industry. And while they say, oh, it's a great money making industry, that can be true.
It can
but if you
be.
don't know, if you don't know what you're doing and you're just getting into it as an investor, you're relying on someone to manage the business for you. And it comes with a lot of decision making that has to take place with those administrators. And one thing that I feel like, and this is where you guys are working out there in the industry, but one thing from my position from the inside looking out is that you see a lot of people still trying to manage like you did years ago.
Yes.
And it's different.
Yes.
We have had to pivot a lot and change. What we did even 5 years ago is different than what we do today. And what we did 10 years ago is totally different than what we do today. And including working with staff. We used to have the do not hire list.
Right. And getting the nurse that's been in that same building for 30 years and getting her to understand new rules and regulations. Like, I've always done it this way. What do you mean? Like, I've always, and it's like.
It doesn't mean it was right.
Yeah.
Or it's changed.
Yeah.
We do a lot of transitions and acquisitions with Davis. That's actually one of my favorite things to do with my previous organization. I transitioned 23 buildings that they took over right before I left, and I love it. So it is a service we offer, but we are seeing a lot of that. You mentioned investors coming into the organization not knowing what it actually entails, and they're buying buildings thinking they don't need a management company and trying it on their own, and they don't have their day one, don't have a policy and procedure binder, or don't have a manual of any sort. They don't have processes for onboarding, training. So we can come in and help develop that, preferably prior to you closing on the sale. But often not. We're not seeing that. They start to panic, and they're like, need help. So we come in and save the day in that scenario. But
I think that's one of the biggest needs that isn't that is kind of overlooked, is that administrator, the DON, the leadership, mentorship, or training. I mean, I don't think I could name one off the top of my head of all of them that we've ever met that have said, like, oh yeah, I felt like I had a good orientation period, or a good training, or a good, and with long-term care staff leaving the industry, and they're, we're bringing in people that are not used to long-term care. They need even longer. There's not a good, it's kind of trial by fire, and no matter where across the board, I feel.
Well, and even in the skilled nursing side of things, they're coming, they're licensed. Yeah. And it's still, they should have a mentorship. In our world, over here in the Wild West, which is what we refer to, the ALF side as the Wild West. And yeah, we have the WALA course, which is great, but it's not a requirement if they have an associate's degree and have had 2 years of experience. as a caregiver even, or a house lead. There's very minimal regulations, and that I think is a contributor too. I think everybody should probably go through the course, and there should be some sort of
like on the job
requirement,
think,
an internship or something prior to being able to run a building and be on that license as administrator.
Because then
you truly need.
How do you learn? From a survey tag or from a resident getting hurt or harmed and then you learn, like it's such high stakes, you have so many lives at your hand, and I don't know that they really, grasp that and really understand like what it's going to take and everything. So
I agree. It is not for the faint of heart.
Certainly is not.
You've got to be tenacious and have a thick skin and literally be relentless to run an assisted living. And it takes a lot of courage, but it takes a lot of heart. People that do it well, they have a real heart for the people that they're serving. And I really think that is key, because I sit back and I'm running the overall business, and how I like to think of it is if you picture a mountain, right? Who's on the top of the mountain? Well, I want my executive directors to be on the top of the mountain. I'll be at the bottom of the mountain, because we all know what runs downhill, right? So I'll take care of whatever's running downhill. You guys stay the champions, stay the course, and run the buildings and take care of the people and take care of we're in the people business. And I think sometimes we forget that. And even state surveyors, when they come in, I mean, they're so focused on those regulatory things. We've been, we get frustrated from time to time because we get really frustrating sites. And you guys can probably relate to this. We had a surveyor come in, and we really believe that this person was just determined to cite us for something. So out of all the things, she has cited us for a dirty microwave. And out of all the things that we did right and we provided the documentation, it came down to the one site we got was a dirty microwave.
And where are the days?
Where do you live?
Yeah, I want to see your
microwave. Like, what does that
Where
look
are the
like?
days of the FYIs? Gone. I feel like they are gone. And we, like Maggie said, we do work mostly with struggling buildings, but we do go into some buildings that are higher star rating. And honestly, one of the differences I see is that, we'll tell them this is not in compliance, and they'll be, the state never cited us on that. Yeah. So then it's like, okay, are you surveying everything or is
equally?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes who those surveyors are too. So if who walks in the door. A lot of times I'll find it, states in the building, and my first question is, who is it?
Yeah.
Because you have an idea of what to anticipate, and you also know the advantage with having so many buildings is what they're going to be looking for, because they tend to look for the same things within your organization. So they tend to look for the areas that you may break down in. What's great about having so many buildings is we learn from what they're going to be looking for. So they're looking at dirty vents.
Yeah.
Everybody in every building, clean your vents.
Everybody clean your vents.
Yeah, that's the nice thing.
Or the microwave. Yep. Okay, everybody clean your microwave.
Yeah.
Because now they're going to come in looking for that.
First thing they're going to do is walk into your kitchen and check your microwave, right?
Or the tag where they could cite you for not reporting to NHSN. It's like, we're doing the low-hanging fruit because they have access to that data. So they're like, okay, Maggie didn't report, Angie didn't report, cite automatically.
Yeah. Minnesota changed their regulations.
2021, right?
Yeah. It's one of the motivations behind joining the WALA board was that is regulations we don't want in Wisconsin.
I was part of that. I had at that time 11 buildings in Minnesota, and we had to change all of them over to the new regulations, and they are skilled nursing regulations.
Yes, they're skilled nursing regulations. And here's the thing, we're assisted living. So it's very challenging to meet those requirements when we're not skilled nursing.
Correct.
And Wisconsin right now, they're watching very closely the new regulations in Minnesota. So being part of the WALA board and working with the state to bring awareness. And anyone who's in the business and assisted living world needs to have a voice with the state, because that's what we could be looking at. And I don't know, not to be fear-mongering, but it is a concern for us of
Absolutely.
how you can, and we struggle with it with our Minnesota buildings, meet those standards and still pay your bills or the cost of what goes along with that. So there's definitely some challenges with it. The good news is the last time that they were talking about us, we're still every time I hear we're 3 to 4 years out. So last year we were 3 to 4 years out. This year we're still 3 to 4 years out. So
They're like just holding out for retirement.
but right now
too.
they have not finalized the adult family home regulations, and that's a whole nother can of worms. And I don't know if you're running an adult family home, how you're going to keep your head above water with the regulations that are going to come out for them.
Well, and that's the thing is like there's no alternative. There's no, additional funding to staff these buildings. There's no additional resources to move these residents to that might be more appropriate. It's just like this is what you have,
It makes you wonder, are we headed to, as an industry, where we just have one level? We don't have the AFHs, we don't have the CBRFs, we don't have the skilled nursing facility licensure levels anymore. It's one set of regulations and one level of care. I don't like it, and I don't think it's appropriate.
Make it even worse. Yeah.
But that's almost what it feels like. Are your regulations going to increase when the ALF ones increase?
Right.
How are we going to...
Well, I think the adult family home regulations, again, we're just having a discussion, matter of opinions. I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't finalized the regulations yet, is how are they going to meet all of those requirements with the reimbursements that they're getting? There's no way. And when I was down lobbying on legislative day to the state capitol a few years ago, I was in a room with someone who just had closed her adult family homes because she can't get help. She can't pay help at the reimbursement that she's getting. And she just finally closed her doors. So where are those people going to go when we already have, like you talked about, with the shortages? It's definitely a challenge for taxpayers.
Yeah, it does ebb and flow with, who's in the seat at the federal level. And so with that, I feel like it changes every time that switches.
I'm going to touch back on reimbursement rates and this lack of. I was in a conversation a couple weeks ago with a pretty prevalent owner-operator here in the state, and he threw out a number that MCOs get about 30% of those dollars allocated to family care. That's astronomical and really not okay. I need to fact check that percent, but if that's what it's costing to fund the case managers, how much more beneficial would that be for 15% more of that to come to the residents to provide care for them versus funding MCOs to do daily visits in buildings that are struggling, or to have their company car or their that troubles me a little bit.
Yeah, it's not surprising at all. I've always wanted to know what the percentage is, but when insurance companies started buying MCO, managed care organizations, it's a lucrative business.
Yes.
And they are the ones winning in all of this. And it comes at the expense of the residents. It comes at the expense of the taxpayers.
Yeah.
And many people don't realize that that money comes from the state and goes to a managed care organization that is owned by an insurance company. So,
they have very little repercussions for not following things like resident rights or,
Correct.
I have several conversations with the ombudsman about that.
So insurance companies don't buy businesses that aren't lucrative. Let's think about that.
Right.
It has to be a lucrative business. But here's the thing about reimbursement rates. And as much as I want to be a victim to reimbursement rates, as owners, we establish the contract with the MCO providers. So we had to really take a look at that and say, okay, what rate are we going to take and what rate aren't we going to take? And you have to be, as an owner and an operator, you have to be willing to walk away. And why in the world would you want to be contracted with 3 MCOs? What necessitates that? Nothing. Why wouldn't you want to be contracted with the MCO that's going to pay you the most amount of money?
Yep.
And that's it. Because if they run out of money, where are they going to go? They usually want to stay with you. So if they run out of money, they're going to go to the ADRC. That's what you're going to tell them to do. And this is who you're contracted with. If they want to stay with you, or they have the option of the other, however many MCOs, and they can go live someplace else. So we, as an organization, identified a pattern with one particular MCO that if someone ran out of money internally, the offer for them, the reimbursement offer, was always lower. Always. Because they knew the likelihood of a provider moving them out or saying no to the rate was lower because they've spent all their private pay money, right?
Right.
But what they would do, so if they were bringing us someone to our door to admit, the rate offer was always higher. But if they ran out of money internally, they're playing on your, your emotional, you've got a relationship with this family, how you're going to tell them no. And, providers just wake up and really take a look at that. Do you need to be in business with somebody who plays those games?
Right.
That is an emotional, you're just an emotional hostage then. And we said no. We gave them notice for every one of our locations. We're like, we're done with you. Now, what that means is, for us, is we said we'll commit to the people we've committed to that are living with us, and we're not going to, we're not going to move everybody out. We're not going to disrupt families in that way.
We will not take more.
But we don't have to do business like that. And I think that that's where providers need to get to. You need to choose who you want to do business with. And you have so much more power than you think you do, because these MCOs don't get rich without who? The provider. And so providers have lost sight of that they can make that call.
Absolutely.
You can give notice and be done with them, now.
Absolutely.
And still keep, you still have the option of retaining the people that you have with you. But you can pick and choose who you do business with. And I think that providers really have to advocate not only for their own business, but for the residents in that way. So if you know that you have a managed care organization and they're difficult to work with, and they're going to call, there's some that'll call state on you with a drop of a hat. Why are you in business with them?
Exactly.
And that's where it starts. That's where change will begin to start, is when providers understand that they're the ones that are really holding the power. And you can say no. And that's okay if they're contracted with the place down the street. Let them lose their shorts down the street. But that doesn't mean you have to. And that was the position that we took, is we were no longer going to be afraid of managed care organizations, and that we were in charge of our business and our residents. And we wanted our residents to not only have the best provider, which was us, I'm biased, which was us, but we also wanted them to have the best MCO organization. And so we went back and renegotiated contracts with the MCO. And this minimum rate, we don't even deal with that. Because we're not contracted with those kinds of rates. So that's where providers have the power to look at that and be like, no more, no thanks. I'm going to hang out over here. But they're so afraid to be like, oh, but how am I going to get admissions? You're going to advertise. You're running a business, and you're going to go out there and you're going to market, and you're going to be just fine, because that's what we do.
I'd love to know, Angie, your thoughts on a standardized assessment, or the assessment that MCOs are using to determine these rates.
Well, I'm real clear with an MCO. that their assessment means nothing to us. We're the ones that have to provide the care, and we know the cost that goes into that, and it's just not appropriate. So we're not going to do that. We know we can't provide the care, we're not getting the reimbursement that we need to be healthy, we're not afraid, we'll give notice. And when you do that, sometimes they come to the table, sometimes they don't. And you have to be willing to let them go if they do, because you're not doing your staff any favors, your other residents, or anybody else. The only thing that if you allow them to take advantage of you as a provider in that way, you're selling your residents down the river, you're selling your staff down the river, you're selling the business down the river. And that's what's wrong, is that as companies and as organizations, the only way we get more is we have to demand more. And just like the staff, just like what the caregivers have done, they said, we're not going to go in there and provide care for $12 an hour anymore. And you said they pretty much named their price. That's where we have to get as an industry and say, we're not going to do it for that.
We can't afford to do it for that.
An empty bed makes more money than a losing bed.
Correct.
So,
yeah. And it's also about, just because they say, oh, here's your contracted rate. I've talked to quite a few. It's like, is that okay with you? Well, no, it's not okay with it. So why'd you sign the contract?
Why did you agree to that?
If you're not getting enough money, then you need to go back and tell them what you need to be in contract, or you just have to say no. And they're so afraid, they're held up in fear that, but right now there's such a demand for good quality care. So if you give up on trying to serve MCOs and you just want to serve private pay, just think of the quality you can deliver if you're not selling your business out. So that's where I think as business leaders, you really have to be able to turn away business. One thing, I have a hard time understanding people that are still recovering from COVID, because we never stopped taking admissions during COVID. We couldn't. First of all, the state required it. We had some of the best occupancy numbers during COVID. We were just had precautions in place. But the thing about it is that there was such a need for quality care during that time also. So I don't know exactly. I think sometimes COVID, they still hold on to it like it's an excuse, or that maybe it's COVID paralysis. We've seen a lot of our competitors just kind of freeze during COVID, and we had to keep on going. I mean, we operate buildings that are 15 people. Like, we can't be down to 10.
Right.
And we operate buildings that are 20 people, and you have to have it to sustain. The employees needed to work during that time. They needed their income. They needed something consistent from us. And so, as difficult as it was, we had to be open. We maintained taking residents. We were just cautious as we could be about it. And we're still running high occupancy numbers today, and maintained that all the way through
COVID.
The pandemic.
For as close as SNF and ALF are related, I think COVID probably had a much bigger impact on some of those larger vent units and in the SNF world than we saw over on our side of the world. Staff, especially, I think a lot of the buildings can't rebuild their census because they don't have the staff to do it.
I have I've worked with a couple buildings recently that have whole units still shut down. Like, I'm talking 50 to 60 beds shut down. The hall isn't even in service, and that happened from COVID. So, but yes, I agree with what you're saying. At the business level, who was in that seat making those decisions?
To even shut it down in the first place?
Right. Yeah. Like, let's dig into that more. Were you not taking admissions, or were you being picky? And or did you have too many staff members out with COVID? I know a lot of buildings you had to have workers work with COVID. They just work the COVID unit. It was unprecedented times, but I think what makes the building stronger is getting through those.
Absolutely. I think industry-wide, we learned a lot during that time. And
a lot that we didn't even want to learn.
I know we still go back we will reminisce about the conversation we had about reusing gloves. And I don't know if that's one of the things that sticks out in our mind, probably one of the most, is when we had a conversation about the possibility that you might have to reuse gloves. Mm-hmm. And we all sat in a room and looked at each other, and you were like, God help us if this really happens.
This is like standard precautions 101. Do not reuse your gloves. Change your gloves between everything you do, right?
And thank goodness that never happened.
Yes.
But just to even sit around and look at the RNs in the room and the compliant, all of us were like, I don't,
sterile?
Do you really
gloves.
think
You want
that
us
can
to-
happen?
yeah, right.
And is this really? And so just having that experience of the pandemic, and those are the things that it brought forward. You thought about things that you never thought you'd ever think about during that time. Mm-hmm. And when we went into the outbreak stages too, it was terrifying initially. Because when everybody tested positive, I remember being at my desk thinking, who am I going to ask to go in? Mm-hmm. And at that point, you didn't know who was going to get really, really ill or hospitalized, and who on my team am I going to ask to go in? It was a heavy weight to carry at that time.
Absolutely.
And then they're all, saying why they can't go in. And so you're having to decide between, okay, this is my 60-year-old worker that has, emphysema, and this is my mom that just had a baby, and it was an impossible. I remember, and it is crazy, but I remember my first COVID death resident, the morgue came and took him out in a cardboard box, because they weren't sure how it was, this was my the first death that I had ever, and they weren't sure how it was transmitted. He had to go, out the back door, and they put him in a box, and it was like, what are we? What is this?
Yeah.
Is this the end of the world? Literally, is this the end of the world? And it's kind of funny to look back now, and I'm glad that we can kind of obviously not look back now and, about the deaths that's, but yeah, it is unprecedented to even think about going through something like that again.
Yeah, you think back at it, and it doesn't even seem real.
Right.
Wild.
It was blur.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem real. And we will reminisce about it because it was such an impactful time. But we will be eating lunch, and we're like, remember when, and it just seems so.
Remember when we couldn't get toilet paper?
Yeah.
Just what? That you never think that would be a thing, that you couldn't get toilet paper.
Yeah.
Just.
But yes, I remember, oh my gosh, the outbreaks. And then you would have to go test all the residents and go and test all the staff. And if you were in a big building, it's like
hours upon hours upon hours of testing.
And I remember always thinking, I'm like, why is this falling on me, the administrator? Don't I have other people that I can help me with this?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a really great discussion, and we could go on and on about this
I
for
think we
a
could.
long time. And we're already over time here. And I really appreciate you ladies. You're definitely knowledgeable and top of the industry. And thank you for being the fixers. A really important role in our industry. And, I'd like to say maybe some days you'll be out of business, but but knowing with the industry, we're always going to need help. Mm-hmm. And I really want to see people consider going into healthcare, and it still be an option for those that are. I did hear from somebody that there's still a waiting list for the nursing program.
Oh.
So I was actually happy to hear that,
really good.
that people are going into nursing, and there's a waiting list at the Madison Technical College anyway.
Wonderful.
So that's great to hear that people are choosing healthcare as an option. And keep in mind with healthcare is that it is a meaningful, purposeful field.
It is.
And you can get a lot of joy from it. And it's not, I always encourage people to not always, we went through a pandemic. Those were difficult times. But that's not the field in a whole.
Right.
There's a lot of opportunity out there, whether it's in assisted living or memory care or therapy, or there's so many options for working into healthcare, and so many great people are out there doing it. So young people, go into healthcare.
Yes.
Long-term care.
Madison needs
specifically.
more nursing instructors so that we can get them all through, right?
Right. They
And
need
I-
to expand the program so we can
Yeah.
get them through that much quicker.
Yes.
I do. I think Davis would also enjoy to pivot our work from reactive to helping buildings be preventative and sustain where they're at. We would love to have that happen in the future.
A more proactive approach.
Yes. Do you guys teach with the WALA courses as well?
We do. So our CEO teaches the resident rights portion
Okay.
of the administrator course.
Awesome. I thought so.
Yes.
That's why I wanted to ask. Stability is definitely a topic we can't talk enough about. That is for sure. So, Angela, Maggie, for coming on, you can reach out to Davis Clinical Consulting at davisclinical.org. And you can find the Angie Graham podcast on your favorite listening app. Thank you so much, ladies, for
Thank
coming
you.
in on the show with me today.
Thank you, Angie. It's been wonderful.
It has been a great conversation. Thank you. For more of the Angie Graham podcast, check out our YouTube channel or our website, theangiegrahampodcast.buzzsprout.com.